Hi, welcome to Film at 11. My name is Joshua Zeiber, editor of the Videophile Home Theater blog. Joining me this week is my 11-year-old son, Thomas.
Yas.
This is the podcast where I introduce my children to famous movies they've never seen before. Each week, my son will sit down having no idea what we're going to watch until I reveal it to him here on camera. This week's topic comes to us actually by viewer request because, yes, I do read and care about the comments that you leave on YouTube or on my blog. Thomas, we're going to watch this week The Last Starfighter, the 1984 science fiction adventure that teaches us that playing video games is really important and we should practice it a lot.
Yeah, you really have to.
I think that's a theme you're going to respond to pretty well.
Yes.
Thomas, have you seen The Last Starfighter?
No.
Do you know much about it? Have you ever seen a trailer for it or anything like that?
No.
Okay. I'm going to be pretty interested to find out how a modern day 11-year-old in the 2020s responds to this movie from 1984. Hopefully you enjoy it. So let's get your quarters ready and blast off for adventure.
I don't have any quarters. Sad
I'll
face.
get you some.
Yay!
Greetings, Starfighters. We have just returned from watching the most exciting sci-fi adventure of 1984, watching it in 2025. So, Thomas, before we started watching this movie, The Last Starfighter, I asked you a couple questions to think about while watching it. And the first one was, if you had to describe this movie in just one word to your friends, what would that word be?
Game.
Game. That's it? Okay.
I can only use one word.
What about an adjective? Maybe I should have been more specific about that.
Retro game.
Retro. All right, it's very retro. All right, we'll go with that. Retro. I was kind of bracing myself for a worse reaction. So let me ask
What
you.
was your worst reaction?
Did you enjoy this movie? Got to think about that.
Yeah. Yeah, I did.
You did overall. Okay, doesn't sound very enthusiastic though.
The spaceship combat looked a little goofy.
Okay. That's one thing we're gonna have to talk about here. But before we do that, I had also asked you to write down 3 things to talk about, and you took some notes. Was that one of your things? If not, what are your 3 things you want to talk about, and then we'll get into the spaceships.
Well, the first one in the very beginning, I noticed that the planets looked a lot like clay, for some reason.
Okay. They didn't look realistic, is what you're saying. Okay, good. Yeah, I think we're gonna discuss that in a minute. So what else did you got? That's a good observation, but we'll get back to that one.
Why is everyone so excited about him breaking the record?
Yes, I noted that as well when we were watching the movie. That all the people who lived in this trailer park were awfully excited to find out that this kid was just breaking the record on the video game. Like, that was the most exciting thing they've got going on. I think the answer to that is just that life is boring in the trailer park, and they got nothing else to be excited about. And this is all there is, the only new thing happening for them that they can take an interest in. But it did seem pretty exaggerated just how excited they were about him breaking a record on this arcade game that is at the trailer park. Yeah, but I guess life is just boring there, right? And what else you got?
My third thing was, how did the alien base survive after getting hit? After clearly getting a piece cleanly ripped off of it.
Yes. Yeah, when the good guy base you're talking about, right? Yeah. Yeah, it was hit with that meteor gun where they shot some meteors at it, and it was pretty clear that from the external view when that happened, that a big chunk of the base just flat out blew up. And later when they show the hero flying back to the base, there's a big chunk of it missing. And yet he goes into it and it seems like everything's still in there, maybe just, a little
Like there's
shaken around.
a rock.
It's a little dirty, yeah, but everything's still basically intact.
There's one speck of dirt.
Yeah, I think that's just a continuity error between the special effect and the sets that they built inside, is what it comes to. And it may have been the fault of the people who were doing the special effects didn't know what it was supposed to look like on the inside, and they just came up with their own thing separate from the people who were making the sets. Right. All right. Anything else you want to talk about?
Yeah, that was really all I had.
Okay. So the big thing to talk about with this movie, I think, has to be the special effects. What is your thought on those?
They look goofy.
They looked a little goofy, yeah. This movie was made a long time ago. It was made in 1984. That's 41 years ago. And
5 million years in the past.
and as we were watching this, I noticed you specifically said that the CGI looked goofy, yeah, and I that's true. It does. It doesn't look realistic. But the thing to keep in mind with this is that this was one of the first movies to use CGI that extensively. That before this, most movie special effects were done with model spaceships or miniatures and other things that were actually filmed with a real camera. But this was one of the first movies that used a lot of computer effects, and they look a little primitive by modern standards. What would you say they looked like?
They looked very goofy.
Okay, all right. But they looked very video gamey, yes?
Yeah.
Like not even a modern video game, but they looked like an old video
game.
A retro video game, exactly. And that's true. A part of me wants to say that, well, I mean, the movie's about a kid who plays video games, so it's kind of natural that some of the stuff looks like a video game. But, in terms of story logic, these are supposed to be real spaceships and real planets and stuff, and they don't look terribly realistic. So that part of the movie hasn't aged particularly well. I think that for the time, they were pretty impressive, that what people learned they could do with computers, but things have gotten a lot better in some ways since then, especially with CGI. But the downside is that now movies rely too much on CGI, and the movie special effects often look unrealistic in a way that's different than this, but still looks unrealistic. Okay. Yeah. So I think that also accounts for like the problem with the mismatch between what happened on the outside of the starbase and the inside of the starbase, because it took them a long time to make those computer effects. The computers at the time were very, very slow compared to what we have now. So it took months and months and months to make one shot with CGI in it. And so they may have not had time to make it match exactly what was happening when they built the sets. Did that take you out of the movie? Were you still able to go with it?
I was still able to go with it.
All right. So if you were discussing this with your friends your age, the other fifth grade friends, do you think that do you think you would call this movie cheesy?
Yeah.
A little bit. Do you think it's cheesy in a bad way?
No.
Okay. So it's still enjoyable, it's just a little cheesy. Okay. All right. The other thing that I wanted to ask you about is what movies this specifically reminds you of.
Star Wars.
Star Wars, yes. Obviously Star Wars. This movie was made after Star Wars, and it's very much trying to imitate Star Wars in a lot of different ways. And, when we were watching the movie, I made a joke about, when he's the kid from the small town who just wants to go to Toshi Station to get the power converters. Because there's a scene almost exactly like that in this movie where he just wants to go with his friends into town, and how now he has to stay home and do chores. How awful.
It's basically Star Wars but reversed, because Luke wanted to stay home and just chill.
Yeah, it's Star Wars as if Luke wanted to stay home. Exactly. Yeah. So this movie is very much an imitation of Star Wars in a lot of different ways. I mean, a lot of the aliens, they weren't they looked a lot like they could have been in Star Wars.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, they were different.
Like the guy that had the laser gun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he looks up very Star Wars-y.
Exactly. And there's even, one of the aliens gets his arm chopped off, like the guy in the cantina in Star Wars. They were really just not making any excuse for that. They were just like, no, we're just going to copy Star Wars. But there was a lot of movies at this time frame because Star Wars was so popular. There were a lot of movies that were imitating Star Wars, and this wasn't the only one that did that. I think that this one still manages to have its own entertainment value. But yeah, it's very much made in the same vein as that. So the other thing that I just wanted to say to you is, if ever a stranger tells you to get in his car and go on an adventure with him, don't do that. Don't do that. I don't care what he promises you. As a parent, I'm telling you, don't get in a stranger's car. Okay? Yeah. In this movie, that's presented as a good thing. He's going off to have an exciting adventure, but it's really not too smart. Don't do that. Okay. So, other than the special effects, was there anything else about this movie that you either liked or didn't like? Who was your favorite of the alien characters?
I liked the rock iguana guy.
Okay. His gunner, his best friend there, was his name Greg, I think it was?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was your favorite?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But I like the kitty the best.
The cat in the trailer park? Okay, that was your favorite character? Okay. Yeah. What'd you think of the Death Blossom at the end?
It looks very goofy.
It looked very goofy to you, yeah. Yeah. It was the special effect was a little goofy, and also it just seemed like that was an awfully easy and convenient way to just end the battle there. Just push a button and the spaceship takes care of everything and wipes out everybody right away.
Like, I was expecting like some big energy blast.
Like
but it was just like
it just spun around and shot everything.
And shot everything like
Yes.
I had aimbot.
Exactly. So, yeah, but as we talked about at the beginning of this movie, this was a movie that was about a kid who played a lot of video games, and the video games trained him to become this expert fighter. So I was just wondering how much that part of it appealed to you.
Video games.
Did you think that was a good message to impart to kids? You gotta practice your video games, and you'll save the world. Okay. All right. Well, do you have anything else you want to talk about on The Last Starfighter? It sounds like it's on our W to L scale. What would you rate this?
W.
W, but is it a enthusiastic W or a mild W?
I'll give it a mild W.
A mild W. Okay. Fair enough. All right. As we wrap this up, I just want to say, if you, our viewers, enjoyed this content, please like, share, and subscribe. And if you want a grown-up take on movies, feel free to head over to videofileblog.com. If you have any recommendations for other movies that you would like me to show to my kids, comment in the comment section of this video, and I will definitely take a look at that. Anything else you want to wrap up with there, Thomas?
Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe. Hi, welcome to Film Middle. Really?
What did I do?
Take 9.
What did I
I started talking to you and you went,
do? Cap.
that is exactly
Cap.
that is exactly what.
Cap.
Stop screaming, please.
No.
Take 9.